Hello, hi everybody. Hi, welcome to February 2021 Park Lane Events webinar. Hello people coming in. Rach, hi, nice to see you. Laura, Katie, Katrina, Javier up in Scotland. Ben, oh my word, this is amazing. Thanks for attending. So I'll start introducing it while people are coming in. This is awesome. So welcome to hello, Katie. Oh, you're using the chat already, Katie. I love it. Thank you. Welcome to February 2021 Park Lane Events webinar for conference and events. What next? That's what we're all asking ourselves, I think. This is recorded. I put the replay out on YouTube, but I prioritize sending the replay back to everyone that's registered first. So you will get this probably tomorrow. I'm homeschooling, so do bear with me as well. Hello, Rachel, you're in the chat. Hi, Laura. Lovely to see you, although be it to see your name. Obviously, I can't see you guys. So I'm just reading my post-it, by the way, here that's just reminding me of everything. This is part of the series between October and March. I started doing them in October to do like 6 months worth, because that was back in the day when Boris was saying, you know, this current lockdown and the way it's going to be potentially could last 6 months as far as our conference and events and things like that were concerned. So this is my penultimate one. There'll be another one next month. I think there is scope to do more after that, and that's something that I'll think about when I'm not homeschooling, to be honest. Another reason I started them in October was after homeschooling, during homeschooling, I couldn't do it. They went back to school and I didn't anticipate that they would be off again like this, so bear with me. Yeah, there's people that are saying that they can come in and come out and we'll watch replay later and things. Absolutely. So hopefully you can catch up when I send the replay to anybody that has to drop out at any time. So this is part of a series. The last one is next month, which is on Thursday the 4th of March. I'll recap that at the end. If you want to take pictures, feel free, of course, share them on social media. It's all lots of information that I'm sharing. It's open discussion. Hi, Michael, you're saying hello, good afternoon, good to see you too. So yeah, it's very friendly, and I'll give you a feedback on the 10 o'clock one I did already, all the same information, but feedback from the corporates that I had this morning. And that's why I started to do them, because as we all know, it's how do we connect with everybody, keep connected in this ridiculous world. And I know that we're all feeling like we're being caged in. We're like little puppies in a cage, I think, that are just desperate to get out and see each other, and not just hug each other, but just that whole information sharing and what's everybody doing and how do we move forward. And we're used to doing it in a very exciting way, and that's what we're all struggling with at the moment. So without further ado, I'm going to share screen, and can you please tell me if you can see the big Park Lane Events massive logo, and so then I know that you can see. Yes, brilliant. Thank you, people. People are raising hands. Yay! I'm loving it. I'm loving the interaction. Doesn't always happen, so thank you. So let's go straight into it. Brief guideline, just to remind you if you've forgotten what we're going to go through this morning. The brief guidelines, I know a lot of us are very aware of what they are, so I keep this brief. The brief update of planning for events after Easter summer, September into 2022, and that's when I'll give feedback of what this morning's webinar was with corporates, and yeah, and also then we've got examples of the virtual platforms and offerings, and this is just part of the information sharing. I've got a recording of a lovely chat with Emily Shields, founder of Emily Alex, who specialises in tailoring programmes to engage and motivate the workforce. Emily's going to be, she's on this chat now as well. So if she's watching, as everybody is, and so if you have any queries as we go along, she's raised her hand, so she's definitely there. Thanks, Emily. And one of the reasons that I wanted to do this with Emily is because she was made redundant last year from the hospitality trade, as so many people have been, and she set up this lovely little company, and it's all about engagement and motivating the workforce, and what better person to support than somebody that has been in our shoes, of course. So that's brilliant. And then at the end, there's just like a wrap up, trying to keep us all motivated, things that I'm doing. Feel free to share things that you're doing, and that's when I can share that as well. Brilliant. So let's crack on. one of the reasons I was going to say I do the recording with Emily as well is because we all know how Wi-Fi can be really bad and things can go glitchy. So that way we've done the recording, and some of the juicy stuff will be there. So government guidelines, I know that we're all in the industry, so we're all quite on top of this as well. And the reason that I did this initially, I was finding the corporates just didn't have time to keep going to the website, which I've put on there. We know it's the government website. There's various streams of pages, and that's what we're all trying to keep on top of. Sometimes they've changed things at 9:30 at night just before I'm doing this webinar, which is really great fun to try and keep on top of, which again, doing this kind of thing, just sharing it all as we kind of sometimes feel like we're scrambling through all this information. One source I found has been really good is Hirespace, their white papers. So their last one they updated on the 26th of January, so relatively new, about safer events. Some of you guys might have that already or are using that as a bit of a Bible, but it's one thing I'm recommending to the corporates as a source for them to go to as well. So one of the things I said this morning was some of the Hirespace's white papers are about pivoting to virtual accreditations that hotels can have, how hotels are stocking up on PPE and keeping, everybody safe. So they know what to look out for, they know what to ask as well, so that everyone's trying to work together when we start seeing more face-to-face and obviously hybrid things that will be sooner, hopefully anyway. So I won't go through all of those other bits because we know the whole what the exceptions are, which for critical care workers, I know there's Edgbaston, for example, they're open for the vaccination centres, so we're all seeing this and keeping up to date with this in our news anyway. This is the government guidelines for England. I've got people all over the country signed in for this, and some people in Europe as well. Hello if you're watching on playback. So I have just put these dates here, and I tend to gear this for England and the hotels in England and the corporates in England, just to keep that niche going. So the next update that we might have for some of these changes is the 22nd of February from good old Boris, with a view to schools reopening 8th of March at the earliest. Personally, I don't see they're going to open on the 8th of March. I don't think they're going to open till Easter, and some of my mum friends are going, just don't say that. They open earlier, that's great, but I'm being quite realistic about it, I think. But we do know the 22nd of February, a roadmap has been promised. So that's, I know, what we're all going to be looking out for when we can open our industry for conference and events, definitely. So you've just got Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, their dates, but we just know that they're changing all the time. So that's why these webinars are helpful. So then we go on to the brief update of planning for events after Easter, summer, September and into 2022. So please do use the notes, the chat to let me know what you're seeing in your workplace with when you have got bookings coming in. So personally, I'm a venue finder with one hat. So I've got clients that I'm doing the venue finding for, hence why I do the corporate webinar in the morning. And then at the other hat is, so I'm reading the chat, the other hat is consulting with hotels and venues, which is where these webinars come in as well, because this is free, so it's all about keeping that communication together. So the corporates this morning, they were saying anything, a couple were saying summertime, majority were saying September onwards. Somebody in the chat has just said, yeah, October time they're seeing things in there. Things that I'm doing on the venue finding point of view, I've actually got a live inquiry at the moment for overseas, and it could be for June this year, but the brief is ideally June this year. It's for 50 people, 2 nights, and a conference for 50 in one day, and then they'll eat local restaurants, but at the moment it's like not really sure how that's going to work with social distancing and things, and it'll probably be next year. I'm just going to move my chat over. It'll probably be next year. So we're getting prices for this year, what would it look like, and then with the potential that it could actually be for next year. So yeah, that's where I'm at with other contracts in, though, for previous events that were from last year and stuff that's just annual every year anyway, and that is June, July, September onwards. Last quarter, I think we all know is going to be quite busy, and yeah, some people are saying the other half were, Lucy said other half were quarter 3 and quarter 4. She did a survey to her, some of her clients. Somebody just said, I've just had an inquiry for 172 days for December, so that's great. Oh, Rosalind said you can't see any chats. I think my setting is just a panelist, so yeah, sorry, because people can't see the chat. I think all the comments are just going to myself, because it's, yeah, I don't think I've changed that setting. If that's all you can do, you can normally go to panelists and attendees. I'll change that. I don't know if that makes any difference to you guys when you're seeing each other's chats. I do keep it like that as well for the corporates in the morning, because obviously they're not, so for that confidentiality side as well. Somebody's got a barbecue party inquiry for September 21. So yeah, so there's a mixture of stuff there going on. At least there are things. So yeah, but as we know, it's engagement, interaction, connectivity, keeping everyone together, the touch points of communication. How many different ways can we try and do this? Giving feedback with employer and employee of these delegates as well, what is actually working for them, because that's the whole brainstorming thing. Most of all, what is the most, how people remember it. Was it fun? Was it motivational? I get a roundup every day from event industry news, and that's given, for example, top 10 virtual showcases there, which is why I've put showcase virtual platforms. Showcase, some people might know about it already, and they do things with St Ermin's Hotel, and St Ermin's was an example I gave at one of the previous webinars with relation to hybrid events, because that's what a lot of people are wanting to find out about now, who's doing them, and I was giving examples of who that is, from obviously London to Edinburgh, the Balmoral, in between with the Belfry, for example, and we know there's lots of us are trying to get on board with that as well. So that was what I was recommending with the corporates. So we've kind of discovered that from Easter, after Easter, if there are any events going on, it's probably going to be smaller events, perhaps they're going to call them test events. So for example, just 10 or 20 people almost have that brainstorming event, and the company themselves are going to call it, this is a test event with a view to do something in 6 months time or 8 months time. And then obviously people are going to need the space to do that, if there's, depending on the social distancing that's required. So country manor properties, stadiums, it goes without saying, because they've got the fresh air and outside activities, but also how people are going to get there, so travelling by car, as well as car parking. So that's kind of, I think, as people are going to be more stepping their toe into it, really, if it's going to be in Easter time. And also having pods, rather than getting sort of 100 people together, it's 10 people in different regions, 20 people in different regions, doing those smaller events, so that they can just do something all at the same time, hence the hybrid solution as well. So then going into summer, one of the things we were discussing was team building. Of course, we know that that's going to be quite a big thing. You can do that social distancing as well, assuming we're going to have social distancing still, of course, in the summer, and giving that summer festival vibe. And one thing that did go down well, when I was talking about campfire conversations, literally having campfires as your break, your afternoon break, or after the conference. So normally they'd have their networking events, which the social aspects is they're not allowed to do that, of course, at the moment, but they were quite excited about hearing the campfire conversation style event. So even if you've got your meeting and then you go and sit around the campfire, because you're stuck in it, not stuck, but you're sitting in a chair rather than mingling at a bar. So it's trying to come up with different solutions, and so again, it was like having pods of those, and how that would work to get people to see each other, and get those conversations going again. And therefore, as we've kind of said, which is here, is that from Q4 September onwards is really when the conferences, meetings, AGMs are looking to start solidifying, and then going back to social distancing, social events. I know that that's something that people will try to do, but it's going to be mainly the conferences and meetings, isn't it, that's going to mainly come back. But I do love that somebody said they've got a barbecue party inquiry for September, so knowing how to do this safely is what we're obviously looking out for. And then hybrid, and obviously the interactive Zooms, which leads on to some of the examples we've got. One thing I've always said is, obviously, and we know it comes down to government guidelines, but then it's down to the company policy, of course, and how do vaccinations come into that now. So are people going to say, right, 80% of you need to be vaccinated, at least, we can't go ahead unless at least 80% of you are vaccinated, and those that aren't, are they allowed to come to the event? How personal are people going to be able to get with why they're not vaccinated? And there's a lot of that comes down to sort of personal information there as well. So these are the chats and the conversations that companies obviously going to have and need guidance on a HR point of view on as well. So again, let me know if you've got any thoughts on that as well. And then, of course, finally, emotional buy-in, and this is something I've said straight from the start. People are going to need to want to come at all anyway, and you've got those that are desperate to obviously come out and do all of these things. One of my clients said she's desperate to get on the first plane she can to go out to a conference overseas, and then there's others that will say, well, actually I'm fine at home, I'm quite comfortable doing the hybrid style where they can just sit on their laptop and go into those virtual rooms and things and see the visuals that way. So lots of test sort of surveys that the corporate companies are going to be doing in the process before they can start knuckling down to booking those numbers as well. So that leads me on to examples, and do send me, people do, obviously that's how I got this in the first place, examples of what you're doing and what's out there. So this is one of my favourite just because it's quite simple, and it covers loads of stuff. So Evolve Events, a lot of people know, and they've got the House of Happiness virtual venues and experiences offering, and what we do know, of course, is a lot of people are done with the Christmas thing. There was quite a scurry of trying to get all the pre-Christmas events, virtual events done. And now I've got time to think about this, and it's much more about our mind and well-being and looking after everybody as well. So which is what Evolve are doing. And what I do like is, I'm just going to go to a page that I wrote down some of their information. Because as you can see, and I know a lot of you are used to some of this as well, but you've got your mind room here, so you go into there, your body room, so you can go into there, and your soul room, or you can hang out at the juice bar here. And this is kind of stuff that either you can go to Evolve yourself, or you're doing it yourself with your own platform. So it's just sharing those ideas. But basically, they have a 90 to 120-minute wellness retreat for employees to relax, recharge, and unwind with your choice of workshops, talks, and masterclasses. Now they have access to over 30 activities, including yoga, poetry, fusion dance, drumming workshops, and I think drumming workshops sound really cool, getting all that energy out there and really getting people motivated, and singing workshops, but that might not be a preference to everybody, some of those things. That's just an example of some of their 30. And then they have their speakers as well. They've got access to, such as Dr. Rangan Chatterjee, so a lot of people know him with his podcast Feel Better, Live More. I recommend listening to any of his podcasts if you get the chance. Then they've got Fern Cotton on their books. So, I mean, we know that it's limitless with all the speakers and the engagement, depending on people's budgets, of course. But at least they could do that all in one shop, doing it through here. Rachel, you've got his book on your desk. Lovely. Do tell us how that's going. So then you've got the juice bar there, so people aren't in one of these rooms having a yoga session or a drumming session. Then they can just chill out at the juice bar and hang out with anybody else there. So that's that networking opportunity. So I like this as an example to do the bigger events for people, and then it is limitless of pretty much how many people you can have, because you've got so many things going on and people can choose then. And I think that's what people are missing, is that control and that choice of what we can do. So I love that one. And then we've got the event book. So this is Ria. So lovely Ria set this company up this year. One of the things she's doing is virtually delivered. That's one of her offerings. And on the bottom right hand side there you can see the little shortbread and Prosecco little box, and that was the one that was sent to me when she did a showcase, and which obviously, as we all know, is a great way to be able to present what we can all do. And above it, what I do like, and this is something that anybody can do either with RIA or obviously themselves, is the conference package. So you can give your own notebooks with your own logos and obviously everything on. So if it's something you're providing yourself, it's an offering that you can do, and you know, you're sending all of this stuff out, or you're going through a company like RIA's at the event book and they do it all, and the company can brand all of their things there. So I think that's quite good when we're looking for ideas. We're so used to exhibitions and being able to, we've got our giveaways and we've all had the notebooks and the pens and things, and I think that's actually a good way to connect again with people. Don't forget about us. This is, you know, and send those to people's addresses. And what I love though is the one in the middle with the little easel, the mini easel, and paints there, and the little bottle of rosé, Prosecco I think it is, and so people can actually, as a team, then you'll get this sent home, sent this to your home, and then you can, you have an instructor, obviously, somebody hosting it, and you'll have to design or draw or paint something, and you have a couple of goes of that. And I think what will be hilarious is when you have to turn it around to your camera and you show everybody what you've done. So a little bit of humour, I think, in there, which is what we need. I think that could be quite fun. Mine would definitely be stick people though, so that'd be quite amusing. So then that brings me on with to the conversation I had with Emily, and I'm just going to read my bits off here as well. So Emily was made redundant. Well, she'll tell you about herself anyway in a minute on the bit that I've recorded. But she specialises in tailoring programmes to engage and motivate the workforce wherever they may be. And as I said, she is watching this as well. So if you've got anything to put in the chat, I'll read that out, because it doesn't look like people can see each other's comments and things. But most importantly, the things that she can do, not just for the small numbers, because this is what she concentrates on. So you can have lots of groups of things going on at the same time, but not just for the corporates and for the offering it as something from a venue or as from an agency, but also for ourselves. So perhaps our families, and because it is smaller numbers, with our friends, and or, you know, work with our work colleagues. So I'll go on to this, and then this should play the recording we did.
Hi Emily,
can you hear?
Can
you hear this
webinar? I really appreciate it, and I know what you're going to tell us about is so needed right now, and everybody is searching the internet high and low for some of the things that you actually offer. So I really appreciate you sending me your proposal of all the things that you can do. So without further ado, introduce yourself so people know who you are and what you do, and then I'll start asking you about your proposal and some of the things that you can do.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much for inviting me onto today's call. It's such a nice chance just to have a chat and just share some of the things that we've been doing. So I'm Emily. I've worked in hospitality for about 20 years, very much in the hotel venue side, doing sales and events. Again, obviously this year has been a bit of a mad year for everybody. If I look back to what we were doing this time last year, I was in Vancouver for the site conference. We were looking ahead to what was looking like a really buoyant year. Came back to Edinburgh, we had our site AGM at one of the hotels, and we were all very much focusing on how Brexit's going to impact us. What was really interesting at the conference was that somebody, one of the hotels, came up and was like, oh, actually, we've just lost a piece of business for COVID. Do you reckon that might have a bit of an impact? And we were like, oh, I don't know, maybe it will. And little did we know that literally a month later, we were all going to be in complete lockdown. So yeah, I think it's been a mad time for all of us. Again, like so many in the industry, I was on furlough and then sadly was made redundant in August. And it's like, okay, we're going to have to pivot here slightly. What can I do? And so that was a real impetus for me to set up my own business, which I did, called Emily Alex. And what we do is looking after businesses or supporting businesses to support their employees while we're all in this environment of working from home, and just helping them connect in that world. So that's very much what we're doing at the moment.
Brilliant. And as I say, so very much needed, and a lot of people are asking something to do that's a little bit different now as well, because before Christmas a lot of people were doing the sort of hampers being sent and a lot of virtual sort of Christmas parties and things, and I think now we're looking for something calm that's going to keep us focused and just a bit more relaxed, but for employees and also as bookers themselves individually, perhaps what tips could they pick up from you today? So yeah, I loved your proposal of all different things that you can do, and I came across obviously yoga at your desk, and I know some people have sort of done that, and some people are asking about that. I think now's the time to be doing this, definitely. So how does that work? How do you do yoga at your desk with you?
Yeah. It's such a nice thing. I think there's so much we can't control at the moment. What we can control is how we cope with what's happening to us at the moment. And that sort of self-care and just taking that time out is really, really important. We all seem to be sitting at our desks all day. We're not really going out. We're not moving around. We're not having that chat at the water fountain. And actually, just having that time just to settle is so, so important. I think yoga sometimes can seem a bit intimidating. You think you're going to be sort of upside down, downward dog. You're like, oh, that's not really for me. Desk yoga is a little bit different from that. And it just allows you to take a little bit of time out of your day. It's a really nice element, because I think what also happens is that you all come together, but rather than all of your colleagues coming together in a work hall, you're coming together in a little bit of something different. So there's that real connection to it as well. I work with really lovely suppliers within the industry that I know. And so it's a guided session, and people just literally sit at their desk. We can do it from sort of probably half an hour is a really nice slot for that. And it just gives you some time just to reset. So you're sitting there, you just do a little bit of just come into yourself. You're then kind of guided. You've got Patricia who hosts the session. She will guide you through some breathing exercises, then some stretches, and just sort of takes you through a really lovely sequence. And what we tend to do is very much focusing on different stress points within the body. So again, it's that sore neck and everything we have working on the desk all day. There's even things we can do with you'll do exercises for your eyes, because again, we're staring at a screen all day. There's elements with sort of hip opens. We hold a lot of stress in our hips, which I didn't realise. So there's lots of lovely things just to help you, whether it's the spine, the breathing, the sleeping, all of those elements. And it just means at the end of that half hour, you've just quietened the mind, you've reset, and you're ready to go again. So that's been really, really popular, which has been great. And just easy to do. So you literally can sit at your desk with some standing movements. It just means that we're using the body and not sitting down all day.
I love the sound of that. I'm feeling quite calm and refreshed just hearing about it. I think I could definitely benefit from that. And is there like minimum numbers with stuff like this as well?
Yeah, we try and keep it really accessible, generally probably around a minimum number of 10 people. But what we can also do otherwise, if it's a smaller group, is we can do a set fee for it. So then that allows the company to have as many or as few people to come into the call as well. What we tend to do as well is record it as well, because as much as we our schedules occasionally work does get in the way, and I think sometimes people are like, oh no, I really wanted to do that, but I had a client meeting I couldn't get out of. So as much as it's always nicer to be there as the live session, it's really nice to have the recording, because if you do miss it, you can still continue your practice. But also it's a lovely resource to have. So say on the Wednesday afterwards, you're like, oh my goodness, I really am feeling quite stressed, I really need a little bit of time for myself. You can actually re-watch that recording and get yourself back into the place you were in before. So
I think that's brilliant. That's great that you can keep that recording, because I think that's the thing with all of these things. It's that one time that you do it, or even if it's something once a month, at least then by having this, you could do it every week, as you say, and when you can, and just shut the office door or whatever and say to everybody, right, leave me to my half an hour zen, thank you very much. And then you can get the maximum out of that and remember everything that was being said. So that's brilliant. I love the sound of it. And then I came across your virtual West Highland Way team challenge with a picture of a man near a mountain. Now, I would love to know what is the interpretation of this while we're on lockdown?
Absolutely. Again, I think because getting outside can be a real struggle for us at the moment. And there's actually something, obviously we all know about the power of being outside, getting some of that vitamin D, all of those elements, and just stretching and what have you. And obviously at the moment we can't go and do all these lovely things like the West Highland Way. For those who aren't from Scotland, you may know it's a really famous walk around the Highlands. And so what we've done is recreate a virtual element of that. So again, it's what's really nice with it is that you get together in teams. So even as much as we can't obviously go out as groups at the moment, it's a really nice way of coming together in a slightly different format. So we can only do groups of perhaps 3 people in a group. It can be as small or as large as the company or the department is who wants to do that. And it's just a really nice way of kind of motivating you to go and do something and feel part of something different. So the West Highland Way, we normally do it over a kind of 2 or 3 week period. It's around 90 miles, so it's quite a substantial distance, but obviously we'll break that down. You'd have a team lead there, so they would being kind of with the team kind of very much structuring how they're going to do that. So it might be, I did this in the summer and it was great fun. So we did like 6K a day, but you could do it in your own time. What was really nice, you felt like you had to do it because you didn't want to let the team down. And you also started like, oh my goodness, I'm not sure I'm fit enough to do all of this. But actually you can start by walking and jogging and running. You can very much go at your own pace, and it's a nice way of mixing up the teams. But really motivating because it means that you get out and do that exercise. You then, you attach it to your watch or your phone, whichever app you're using. You then download it, send it to your team lead, take lots of photos as you're out on the walk. So it might be that obviously everyone lives in different places, but it's quite nice to kind of find a route and show what you're doing. And then as it goes on, it can also get quite competitive. So different teams start uploading their times, and it's like team this has reached this this land point first, this one's coming up before. So it then becomes quite a fun sort of team initiative from that as well. You can also link it into maybe sort of charity and raising some money, so the teams can raise money around that. So that's quite a fun thing to do as well. And at the end, we quite often, once you've achieved it, one, it's really nice because you can see your speeds and your times coming down. It's actually a really lovely bonding experience. And then we tend to quite often do like an awards event on sort of, say, a Zoom after. So everyone comes together, there's awards, say who was the best team, who maybe took the best photograph, who was the best team player, and just a really nice way of just bringing people together, but also with the mindset of getting people outside, getting them moving, because I think it's so difficult sometimes to do that by ourselves, but by being part of something bigger, it's really, really helpful.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there. That's exactly what I was thinking of. This sounds great because it's getting people out sometimes, and especially people if they're living on their own or in their flat share and they've not got company or somebody else that's pushing them to go out as well. So having that buddy up system basically, and then they're working as a team. So it's that camaraderie that you have, and then they're being competitive against another team. So you've got that extra push, and then to have that goal at the end with the awards is this has been really well thought out. I think that's brilliant, and I know there'll be a lot of people interested in that. It sounds really good fun, and it's for your well-being. That's brilliant. You're getting out and getting that exercise that you probably think, oh, I should do it, or shall I do it today? It is hard right now. We're in February, and then that'll be the weather's not great, is it? So I love that. Yeah. And then and you've got lots of offerings, so I'm just picking a few out here. Combining essential oils with acupressure points, and you kindly sent me some examples here of some essential oils. So how does this work with a virtual event of using the essential oils?
Yeah, again, I think it's all very much about that self-care, and also I think it's so nice if you can have an experience which is sensory. So rather than just listening to somebody talk, to actually learn something new and actually have an experience at the time, and also have some learnings that you can take away with you is really, really important. I think all of us, love all the kind of scented candles and the diffusers and all of those elements that we have around the home. But I think we don't necessarily think much of it. We just like the smell of it. What's really lovely with these oils is that they're like a sort of form of medicine in the nicest possible way, in the sense that you can really self-care for yourself. The company that we work with has got the most beautiful, they're the purest oils. There's nothing synthetic in it, which you quite often would get in a number of the things that you would buy perhaps on the high street. They've all got really lovely strengths and powers that you can actually use yourself. So, for example, I think peppermint's one of the ones that I sent you there. So again, I think we all rely quite a lot on our coffee and things at this time of
yes.
Yeah, so it's like to get us moving in the morning. But actually peppermint, because it's really energizing. It's quite potent there. but it's got that really lovely sort of energizing qualities that you can have. So I think it's the equivalent, one drop is the equivalent of like 28 cups of peppermint tea. So so it can have a real quite an effect, and because of the pure quality of it, you can actually take it internally as well as using it on yourself. For example, like first thing in the morning when you want to get yourself moving, even that 3 o'clock slump that we all get, rather than again reach the caffeine, you can actually take a drop, you can put it on the roof of your mouth, and you feel free to do it as we're chatting.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it.
And it can have a really uplifting.
Wow, that's lovely.
And it's really, you feel amazing. You can put it, in different bits. You can also, it's really lovely to rub it together, put it on your hand. You put a couple of drops, inhale it, so you've got that lovely uplifting pillow. You can also put it on the back of your neck, for example. So obviously to relieve maybe some of that strain and muscle pain and things that we can get. So they're really versatile. Obviously, peppermint's one that we know quite well. What's really nice with them, as well as we can use them in that way, there's obviously acupuncture is really, really powerful, but we don't want to be probably putting pins in ourselves at the moment. What you can do is use the same concept, to use the acupressure points, so use the points on the wrist, on parts of the body, and just by putting a gentle touch with the oils, it's having the same impact as actually going to an acupuncturist, for example. So there's a point in the ear up here called Chen Men, which is brilliant just for resetting. So you can put a little bit of the oil, hold it for maybe 1 to 3 minutes, and just feel yourself resetting in that way. There's some lovely points on the wrist. For example, there's one called a Heart 7, which again is just very accessible. You don't need to be an expert. You more or less find the points, just their natural kind of little gaps on the wrist, what have you. And some of the, I think Serenity was one of the ones that I sent you, which is a lovely mix of blends. But if you're suddenly feeling a little bit overwhelmed, you're like, oh my goodness, I need to calm down. You can just, again, use these oils, pop them on those points. Just give yourself an experience of 1 to 3 minutes. And relax and reset. And it's a really lovely way of just feeling that you've got something that you can do to help you as well, depending on your reason. So having these sessions are brilliant because you've got an expert on the acupuncture fields and also on the oil field talking about the properties of the oils, how they can help you. And we tend to theme it as well. So rather than just having a generic conversation, we can use them to say, with like homeschooling being a big one for us at the moment, as you know.
All about that.
So you can use it, to help us homeschooling, home working, and actually a lot of the oils are absolutely fine to use with children as well. So it can be a really nice way to engage with them. Also things like sleep and relaxation. It can be difficult sometimes to switch off. So there's lots of things you can do to get into that place. As well, it's also the really lovely combination you can use in a diffuser. I know a lot of us have got diffusers. At home, I have mine on absolutely constantly. So whereas we're in the house at the moment and we're having to use the same rooms for working, for sleeping, for relaxation, it can be quite hard because those rooms get quite confused with the energy of what's happening with them. Diffusers are a really nice way of zoning rooms and spaces. So in the morning you might want something lovely with citrus, which again gets us sort of energized and working and motivated for the day ahead for when you're working. But then in the evening, when you want to slow down, you might want to have something more with some sort of lavenders and some much more relaxing scents in there, just to help us settle. So that can be a really nice way of doing it as well. So although we're in the same space, we can feel different. And the sense of smell is so evocative as well, and can just help us depending on our moods, whether we need to be energized, whether we need to relax, whether we need motivation, whether we just need to settle. There's some lovely oils and combinations that you can learn about, and you can use that in your own self-care routine.
I love the sound of, there's so much of that. There's the different smells where you'd normally have them in the different rooms. And so having the morning smell and perhaps the afternoon smell, because you just need different things at different times of the day. That's a very simple and effective way to be able to do that, actually. I think that's absolutely brilliant. And especially there are people out that are using obviously their bedrooms for their offices. So it's trying to separate that, isn't it, as well? And then all the different people that could be using it, like you mentioned, children and homeschooling, and just us grown-ups if we're feeling overwhelmed, as well as just sort of calming down at the end of the day, because there's just so much people are taking on and so much information that they're trying to take on, and we're all looking for something that we can still do at home, and this sounds brilliant as well. And is there sort of minimum numbers or maximum numbers you would do this for?
Yeah, again, you try and keep it probably 10, 15 as a minimum, and also it's just nice to get that little bit of a community feel. There's also really nice to want to do a Q&A, actually just engage in how is everyone feeling, because everyone's having their own experience from it. So I think it's a really nice way to use it. And also you can use it for things like sport and, as I said, aching muscles. So, if you're an avid runner, or you can combine it, which is really nice with perhaps things like the West Highland Way Challenge. To actually have the oils when you've come back maybe from your walk run, you've got those slightly aching muscles, actually knowing which oils you can use to rub in, or all of these different things. So I think all of them work really nice in unison. Even things like the desk yoga, there's lovely oils which you can use before the session starts to get you again into that kind of calm place. So there's some lovely synergy with all of the things that we're doing.
That sounds brilliant. I've got so many. I know I could tell that there is so much more to each of these that we could just go into more detail.
Lots of chat, absolutely. So I found, especially for lockdown, they have been like this massive benefit to me. And I think all the things that I'm doing and all of the things that we're offering are things that I really enjoy and I believe in myself.
Yeah,
that's really important. And also using a lot of new concepts or new ideas or things that people haven't perhaps been introduced to before or not familiar with. So there's that real education there, which is really nice, and supporting sort of artisan producers and things, which I think is really important, because I think, especially in hospitality, we both work in that sector, and it's been so disrupted obviously with the pandemic. And I think by finding a need perhaps in kind of corporate companies where they're really finding that they're super busy, but actually that camaraderie you get in the office is really impacted. But by introducing some elements to engage them, but supporting it with the network that I've got within the hospitality and service sector, who are obviously having to pivot themselves, and just bringing those two elements together works really, really
really well. I think you've got really good lots of offerings here, and you've got meditation and mindfulness and other things there as well. And then I saw you do, because I think it's quite a good question, which is actually in your proposal. I can see you can do different things for different months. So you can obviously have people that buy a one-off experience, or you can have people that say, we want to do one thing in January, we'll do something else in February, something else in March. So they're still doing everything through you, and then what they've had, what is working really well, and perhaps suggesting some of your other offerings for an alternative on a different month. So I'm guessing that's how that would work.
Yeah, I think what I try and be is very much an extension of the teams that I'm working with. So you become very much a kind of support to them. And by understanding, we do quite a lot of things like questionnaires. So before we start with a client, it's a bit like what we would with organising a live event. It's understanding what the needs of the clients are, what they're trying to achieve. And then by having those conversations, you can then put a programme together which engages all of that. And I think, as we were talking a little bit before about kind of Christmas, that was very much about the tastings and the foods and the fun things and the hampers and that element. So there was perhaps a little bit more of the fun bits there. January comes in, it's a bit more like, okay, resetting wellness. And so you can do some lovely months, but again, with key elements which are going on. So whether it's, I don't know, Easter's coming up, there's probably some fun things we can do about it. I think at the moment, everyone feels that we're in a slight Groundhog Day of every day is the same. All of the big things which happen that normally gives a sense of, oh yes, it must be the summer now. So Edinburgh Festival's on, for example, or Wimbledon's on, or something. We haven't had any of those elements this year. So I think there's an element of marking those in a slightly different way and giving some structure, and also to things to look forward to. And then we'll do questionnaires for the clients after the event as well, because I think it's really important there's a bit of an ROI there, and they know what the feedback is from the staff themselves. But we're also using, as much as most of it tends to be working with corporates at the moment with their staff, actually we've used it with some clients as client entertaining options, because the traditional things that they would normally do, we can't do. So it's like, well, they want to do something different to entertain and inspire their clients. So it has the sort of two effect from that point of view. You can use it for your team, but you can also use it for your clients as well.
Sounds brilliant, and there's so many elements I think you can bring into this. And when you were just saying about sort of times of the year like Easter, I'm thinking, it's February, and it's like the month of love, which I'm all about, sharing the love here. So this is perfect, and I know it's just the way that we sort of meet each other and the way that this is timed, but actually this is perfect for February. And I know there's going to be lots of people that will be interested to find more information. They can do this straight away. Really, it's that you don't need a long lead-in time to prepare a lot of this stuff, of course. So this is brilliant. How can people find you? How could they book anything from you and find out more information if they wanted to?
So again, the joy of online is that you're very easily sort of accessible. So I'm also on LinkedIn, so you can follow me personally, which is Emily Shields. I also have a business page, which is Emily Alex. So feel free to come and connect on both of those platforms. We also have a Instagram page, so that's Emily Alex Scotland. So we do some quite fun things on there, so people can see some of the suppliers, some of the things which we're doing there. Also on email, obviously that's on my website, which is emilyalex.com, so you can have a look on there as well. So yeah, lots of different ways to get in touch. But yeah, if you want to find out anything else or connect for a virtual copy, I'd be so delighted to have a chat.
Fantastic. I know you're going to get people contacting you. Nearly every webinar that I've done, people have either emailed me or emailed the people that have appeared direct and said, how do I find more information on? Or yes, I was in contact with them and booked something or inquired about something. So and I think this is really timely, as I say, with the month of love and looking after ourselves and looking after each other and engaging.
Love, exactly.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and I could have heard so much more, listened to you so much more. So I just want a big thank you, and I really appreciate it. Look after yourself and take care.
Thank you so much for having me. See you soon. Bye.
Oh, let's not start that again. So hopefully that's given lots of different ideas there, and it is Wellbeing Week this week, so even more timely in that. Emily and I have only known each other a few months as well, and we met through a mentoring group that we're part of called the Talent Hub, and so it's been really nice to be able to hear about what we're doing in our own lives, as well as the mentoring that we're doing with the group. And another thing Emily does do is life coaching, so I know that in hospitality, obviously we would all love to know a bit more about that at the moment. I think we could all do, as I say, it is the month of love. I think we could all do with a bit of a bit of hand holding in some respects, and a bit of G'ing up and motivating ourselves. So as I said, Emily is it is a new venture for her, but she's very open with sharing what she's doing, so feel free to contact her, and as she just said, a virtual coffee just to have a catch up and how things are working. The other thing, when she was talking about the Highland walking, literally just before I got onto this webinar, I was in touch with somebody who's doing a walk in Westminster, so obviously virtual. So I think that's going to be one of the things that we can see, that you can do different ones there. So at least it's different, obviously, regions and different ideas, just to keep things moving and doing things each month. And that's where I think these things like this are really good for client events. We can't obviously do fan trips or client events anymore, but you could, send a survey out to clients and say, what would you like to do to keep and do something perhaps once a quarter or once a month, or whenever it is you would normally do, or something for like 10 people one month and another 10 people another month, or obviously you've got options there for hundreds as well. It's all about trying to keep connected and keep motivated as well. And yes, it is weird watching myself doing that, and it's not very comfortable, but it works with connectivity and things like that. So then keeping motivated and supporting the industry. Now, last month I very quickly put this up. It's something that I keep looking at once a month pretty much. I think it's quite good in recognizing where we all are in this, and perhaps where our colleagues are, or our friends are, or family, and an employee point of view, an employer point of view, obviously many different levels, and I think we can probably all recognise the different colour patterns where we've been at different stages throughout this whole pandemic. And again, it just goes back to that whole, it's okay, and perhaps if I did this, for example, once a month or once a week, and go, right, where am I on this week or this month, and like circling some of the bits where I recognise, because it's not obviously all going to sit in one column, but then seeing that progress as we come along. And that's where people have got employees, or want to pass it to employer, or it's quite a variance of people watching. So wherever people are in that situation, to share things like this, because I think just recognizing, yeah, I am exhausted, but actually I'm still able to focus or whatever. So you can see, yeah, I'm exhausted, so I'm going to struggle in some things. And I know it sounds really obvious and it's common sense and things, but again, just having this is just recognizing it's okay, and what can we do ourselves or to help people we recognize that in as well. Then just one of the things that we often do is at the beginning of January, we all have very good intentions of trying to do things, and one of my things was a grateful diary to keep that from the 1st of January. That's fallen by the wayside, but now we're back in the beginning of the month. I'm like, right, let's try it again. And I do think that just even if we drop off with doing things for ourselves, it doesn't matter if you stop, don't, you know, I don't want to just give up. So it's about just getting back on the wagon again, and right, okay, I'll just restart it. And I often think that doing something is obviously better than nothing. And there's the same with the mindfulness and taking time out. And I do this 60-60 thing. Is it going to be 60 seconds where I'm just going to take a few deep breaths, or is it going to be 60 minutes and completely, you know, lock myself away somewhere from the family and you know, read that book or whatever if I get that opportunity. So that's a little more rarer, of course. We all know about, you know, exercising makes us feel good, and walking and running and cycling HIIT workouts if we're motivated to do it. But the point is, how do we keep up that motivation, and how do we keep going? And my kids, they've got I actually got it before we had kids, Connect Sport, thinking, oh yes, this is a great thing to be able to do at home. It's on the Xbox, and it's that whole it's a whole different load of games, which are hurdles and long jump, and you're actually doing it all on the spot in the lounge. So when you're doing a long jump, you're actually jumping as high as you can, but waving your arms about. One thing I found that I'm quite good at is boxing, which I didn't realise when I'm against the computer, and I think it's all the aggression and frustration that I'm trying to get out in those 60 seconds that they're doing it for. So that's been really good to do that with the family as well. We're obviously all at home, so that's something we've been able to do that diversifies some of the going for a walk, running and cycling things, depending on the weather, of course, as well. And having a buddy in that respect. And then that is where, you know, having a walking buddy, you know, you're phoning that person, they're miles away. So you're, you know, you've got that interaction as well as going out for exercise, and you've got to show up then and do that, because you've said, right, at 10 o'clock or whatever, we're going to go for a walk, but we're actually going to have a call. And that applies to any venues actually that you know, I'm trying to keep in touch with. At the same time, it is difficult for everybody. People are on furlough. I've got the kids. It's just trying to, you know, sync our diaries sometimes, and that is a great way to try and help us all out together, I think. And then it's that whole controlling negative thoughts, acknowledging them when they do come in. There's a lot of things that aren't fair. Why is this happening? And, you know, those usual things that we've been thinking since the start that obviously still come in. And it is just, you know, again, it's okay to have those thoughts. We're all had them, going to have them. And again, that is, you know, just acknowledging them. And for me, I just try to move forward as much as I can and keep that positivity going. You know, we know it will get better eventually, but I appreciate this. It's like, well, when kind of thing, because we all had that, well, we thought it was a few months, and then a few months more, and a few months more, and it's a how long is a piece of string scenario, which is we're all getting a bit of a short fuse now rather than a long string. So that's where, again, just being compassionate and being kind and gentle with ourselves as well as others, and give ourselves a break. And you know, we have been through a lot, we are going through a lot, we're still going to go through a lot, and so that's where you know, hopefully with these webinars and you know, I obviously watch other webinars, and it's trying to share information and how we are feeling and how are we taking those steps forward. And when we're having a really bad day, it is just another bad day. It's just horrible that there's more bad days sometimes definitely than there used to be. So it's, again, just keeping up the communication and community that we have. I think that's the one thing as hospitality we are brilliant at, and therefore we are very good at offering support to other people. We're not always very good at asking, myself included, asking for help and support either. So, you know, this is my way of trying to keep connected. This is the month of love. You know, send a postcard to somebody that says, you know, just sharing the love or whatever. That's obviously what I would put if I had the time to do it. which I do need to do. You know, it's like we've all got 5 minutes that we could write a quick postcard to somebody, and doesn't everyone love getting something through the post as well? And going back to connecting with clients and things, that's again something that's very easy to do. I appreciate you need people's addresses, and that's and another thing to try and obtain. But you know, once you've got all that, it is just building up that data again, and starting small. Start with 5, start with 10 or 50 or whatever, because it's time. Again, I know it's time when nearly everyone is on reduced hours now as well. So it's just picking which idea is going to work. Whatever ideas you've got as well that are working already, do share them. And one of the things that Emily and I did talk about is perhaps why don't we put on an event for people to join, so that we could all have that half an hour put aside for yoga, or you know, mindfulness or essential oils, so that then we do actually treat ourselves to a little bit of time out and recentering and refocus, because we do deserve it, and we should be doing it, but that's easier said than done, I know. So then, you know, finally, it's, you know, who is your inspiration? Obviously, at the moment, for a lot of people, Sir Captain Thomas More, rest his soul. And one thing I put, I wrote this on social media yesterday, that the person that showed us, no matter what, no matter how old, you get up, show up, and what might seem like a few small steps can lead to a massive ripple effect. And how inspirational is that? I mean, I don't think anyone can show us more than he did, that just doing what you think is something, a little idea, something very small, just try it, you know, just try it, and you never know, and the impact you could have, even if it's one person or 100 people. Just keep doing it. And I happened to find literally this morning, BBC Radio 2 have done a tribute to him, where they had a conversation with him and Michael Ball previously, chatting and reflecting on an incredible life. And so to finish off and to quote him, obviously we know he said tomorrow will be a good day. He also said you never walk alone, like Dame Vera Lynn, of course, as well, which I think is really poignant, quite emotive, of course, as well. So that does totally finish the webinar there. I hope that's been useful. As I said, it's all about sharing what we can at the moment. This is just my perspective and what I'm doing with clients, and what the clients are saying to me, and what we're all sharing amongst each other as well. The next one is going to be on Thursday, the 4th of March. That will be the last one in this format. And you've got all my social platforms. I am in Clubhouse. I think I might do a bit about that next month, because that's another social media platform. So I'll be playing with that a bit more. I'm just going to stop sharing the screen. There we are as well. Just to say thank you so much for people for attending today, and those that have watched on the webinar, on the playback. Thank you so much for registering. I had so much interest on this one, and it is trying to keep on top with communication with everybody while we're all doing everything else. But as I know, I'm saying to myself the same thing, just do one thing at a time, because that's better than not doing anything at all. And I've had a lot of replies to the invite, actually, and I haven't had chance to get back to people, and literally as I jump off this, I'm going to take my girls out, get some fresh air, and grab some lunch, grab a takeaway lunch, which we never do, so that's going to be a treat for them. Great, we've got a response in the chat here. Emily's chat was super. Oh good, people are putting on that everyone can see the chat now, so that's good. I'm glad people have liked it. It is just the only way that I could catch up with as many people at the same time. Oh, I've got a question and answer. Oh, thanks very much, it was great, thank you. I will send the follow-up, the replay tomorrow most likely, and you'll get all the information there. And if there's anything obviously I can help with, let me know. On my email as well, there is a link. You can schedule a call with me as well. That will be on the email that I follow up with tomorrow. So I've scheduled times now to try and get chats in. So as I say, it's just trying to work out different ways where we can all still try and connect as much as we can. So I'm gonna love you and leave you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it massively. It keeps me going. It totally keeps me going, and it gives me that date in the diary to collate everything as well. So take care, share the love, and I'll see you soon. All right, bye.